Yes, hello and welcome back to the PE Insights podcast, conversations about physical education with me, your host, Nathan Walker, and it's brought to you by the fantastic team at PE Scholar. There are 2 episodes left of 2024, this one and one more which will be going live next Friday. So thank you for your support so far and all your support this year, and I hope you enjoy the remaining 2 episodes of 2024 before I take some time off with my family to enjoy Christmas and the New Year before bringing you some more episodes in 2025. So today's episode is the first of our book review series, or our book series, or what I'm kind of calling Meet the Author. So today we're going to be introduced to the author of Making Every PE Lesson Count, James Crane, and the book's published by Crown House Publishers. So this episode came about by a conversation between myself and Kate Reynolds, a previous guest on the PE Insights podcast and associate of PE Scholar. We decided that we both read the book and share our thoughts around the book and put together some questions that we'd like to ask James when he comes onto the podcast. So we start by kind of introducing James and unpacking why he came to write a book and some of the key messages before going into sort of wider conversations around PE and finishing with our quickfire questions. So I hope you enjoy this episode. It's a good one, and if you're interested in buying the book, there is a code that is mentioned throughout the episode where you can get some discount on this if you'd like to get your own copy, maybe just in time for Christmas. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the first of our book review series. Hello both, welcome to the PE Insights podcast, or welcome back I should say to Kate. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
And James, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. So I'm really excited to do this one. It's our first book review. Thank you first and foremost to Crown House Publishers for sending this across. Really enjoyed reading this, both Kate and I, and we're here today with the author of Making Every PE Lesson Count, James Crane. So big shout out first and foremost before we start as well to Kate. Kate, you've returned from guest to now co-host. So welcome to the club. So what we've done is we went away and we got a copy of this book and we got to read it and really delve into it and kind of unpack it. And we sat down and went through some questions that we'd like to ask you. But I think first and foremost, what we'll do is we'll ask James if you kind of introduce yourself and your educational journey so far, then we'll go into kind of what kind of switched you towards writing the book.
Yeah. So I'm obviously James Crane. I went to school in Cyprus and went to it was a private school, but it was a military school that was on the base because my dad's in the army. And it was there that I sort of realised that in such a small school that the value that the subject PE had in the wider world of school, but also beyond the school gates. From there, I went to Chichester because it was the only college affiliated with the school I was at in Cyprus. I moved out from the family home at 16, boarded at the college, and then was at a loose end after college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was playing semi-professional football. I'd stopped playing professional football out in Cyprus to come back to the UK, and then went to University of Chichester just so I could continue playing non-league football and picking up a few quid here and there. Did sports coaching and PE because I knew I liked sport. And then again, I finished uni, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and one of my lecturers got me a job as a cover teacher in a school. And then that's when I realised that actually, when I started doing cover and then more PE cover, that was where I sort of wanted to be. So then became my deputy head of school said, okay, well, we'll look at what we can do. I didn't get accepted on the PGC at the university. And then she said, okay, well, we'll set up a schools direct here and we'll do it through the school. So she did that for me, which was really kind of her. And I owe a lot to her because I wouldn't be teaching if it wasn't for her. And then from there, I got a job at a school after I'd done my schools direct at that school. Got a job at Darrington High School as an NQT, and then I've been at Darrington High School, moved into deputy leader of PE, then become a research school associate, and then was seconded onto the senior leadership team as an assistant head teacher, and now a deputy director of the research school. And then I'm here now after deciding to write a book a couple of months ago. Sorry.
Yeah, brilliant. So what had you always thought about writing a book? Because you've just talked about your journey about maybe not knowing that you want to be a PE teacher. Now you've written a book about what makes effective PE teaching. What kind of led you towards doing that?
Well, I'd done it for a little while in terms of like the teaching, and we're at a school where basically, research schools, for those the listeners that aren't aware, that doesn't mean that we necessarily carry out action research on children. But what it does mean is that we're sort of the bridge between the latest available evidence and then for busy teachers who haven't got time to read lots of journals, lots of articles, or delve into it, to try and synthesize what that research means for busy practitioners and try and make it more real. So sort of off the shelf and into the classroom, if you like. And because I was doing that work, I found that really interesting. And because I'd been doing the PE teaching and thoroughly enjoyed teaching, it felt like the time was right where I could have the opportunity to share what my experience of being a teacher is, but my experience of the wider research and how that's impacted my practice, and the two intertwined with one another. And obviously I was quite fortunate that the authors of Making Every Lesson Count, Andy Tharby and Sean Allison. Andy Tharby is the director of English in my school and Sean Allison is the head teacher. So they asked me to write it 5 or 6 years ago, and I didn't feel I had the correct time in my life or the knowledge to be able to do it well. And I was never going to do it if I didn't feel I could give it the justice it deserved. And then I felt like with my experience in education and teaching, PE, the two now sort of married up. So I thought I'll sit down and have a look at it. And before I knew it, I was 2 or 3 chapters in, and I was loving it.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think it's the series of books I've been aware of in teacher education has seen the series and kind of what the messages are about cognitive science, educational psychology, some of the most popular methods of what we call good or effective teaching. They run throughout the whole series, and they run throughout this book as well, don't they? What was your sort of message or key messages that you wanted to get across in the book?
So, the key, they call them pedagogical principles of practice. So it's the 6 principles that Sean and Andy talk about. So sort of challenge, explanation, modelling, practice, feedback and questioning. And that's the sort of the spine of the book, that they're 6 principles of great teaching. So with the PE book, what I've tried to do is read around those chapters in terms of those wider terms, if you like, and then bring them to the life from this is what's really wide, this is what comes into the fore.
Is he gone?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I think we lost you for a little bit. So you carry on from where you left off. It was
so trying to bring a wider evidence base around challenge in terms of in education. But then what does that actually mean for me being a PE teacher? What does that mean for the day-to-day grind of what I do? And then try to give like 5 or 6 reflective questions at the end of each chapter, but with about ranging between 8 and 12 really practical strategies. But in those strategies, it's not just about the theory, it's about concrete examples of what they look like in a specific situation in a classroom, well, in a teaching space for a PE teacher. So a combination of the practical and the theory. But the idea is that you can pick it up off the shelf and you can look at, right, okay, I've got this lesson coming up. I'm thinking about how I want to develop my modelling. What are the really concrete, specific examples? And then I've tried to make it so that you can read it and it's really tangible and things that you can pick up and think about amending tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think you've done that pretty well. As you know, both Kate and I are fortunate to flick through this and kind of delve into it. And I'm going to hand over to Kate in a minute to share her thoughts and feedback on the book. But one thing I think is really good that I've taken from it is that there are some real concrete examples of what those things look like in PE. And sometimes when we start to unpack the research from the EEF, for example, around effective teaching, a lot of when you go to the reference list of those approaches to education, very few sources are from physical education settings, aren't they? They come from classroom-based subjects, English, math, science, etc. So it's really nice to actually see someone interpret, someone rationalise, someone create authentic examples for PE teachers and those interested in PE teaching to be able to refer to. So, and that's one thing that I've really appreciated from the book. I'll pass over to Kate because Kate would have got a parcel in the post maybe a month or so ago saying, here you go, here's a book to read. Would love you to kind of flick through and let us know your thoughts, because what we're going to do is going to have a chat with the author in a couple of months' time. So Kate, I'll hand over to you for you to share your sort of thoughts on the book.
Yeah, sure, thanks. Well, yeah, that's exactly what happened. So PE Scholar had obviously been in contact, said, would you like to read this book? And I said, yeah. So I'll be honest, it wasn't on my radar of necessarily of books to read. I do read a lot around educational theories and different things that are going on, but it wasn't necessarily on my radar. But I did thoroughly enjoy it. So I am totally glad that I did get a chance to read it. And the main thing, I think you hit the nail on the head before, was it's a really easy book to pick up. And the fact that you've got these 6 chapters, what really hit it with me is that there is really something for everybody to read and to learn from. I think we can get into a point in our careers where perhaps we're settled as teachers, and not that we think we know it all, but we know what my lessons are going to look like. I'm well planned, I'm well versed, I know what I'm going to do. But reading the book, it really did have those reflective questions and was really quite challenging. And I think whether you are an ECT just starting out or you are a well-seasoned teacher, I really do think there's something in there for everybody to take away. The main point for me, and we had a good chat about this the other week, Nathan, was the modelling section. I really enjoyed reading that section. So not to give too much away, but there is a table in there sort of showing all the list of skills and activities and all the different things that teachers would have to model, that PE teachers have to model. And I really do think if we gave that table to other people outside of the PE profession and say, we have to be able to do this, we have to be able to physically show how all of these skills are performed. We have to be confident. We have to be competent. We have to explain them down, and stretch and challenge and do all of those things. I think people outside the PE community might be really quite shocked about what we have to do. And I don't know if you're the same as me, James. I can go into different meetings sometimes with staff outside of the PE world and go, you give them a ball and they just go and play for an hour. And obviously we all know that it's very, very different, isn't it? So there was lots of really, I think you used the word tangible, real evidence, real things you can get your teeth into and really challenge your own practice. I really enjoyed that bit.
Yeah, and I think that for me, that's like it wasn't necessarily one of the reasons when I was writing it, I was thinking, this will be really good. But when you think about the best teachers that we can all think of, they're not a finished article. It's not like you get to a point in teaching, like, right, I'm done now, I'm really good at this. It's like you're doing really well, but it's always, how do I be more consistent? What's the next thing that's going to really transform my practice? And I think that idea of getting better never stops as something that when I go back in, I think, I've stopped doing those little bits. I need to think about that slightly differently. And I think that idea of constantly refining, reflecting and moving forward that we expect the kids to do, but we as teachers need to, for choice of a better word, model that to the students. And I think that's one of the things that I feel has come out. So it's really nice to hear you say that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and the reflective questions at the end is to say you there was some you kind of go, it's like almost a tick list, and I would go, I do that, and then there'd be one you go, oh no, I don't, and then I would go away and I was reflecting on my practice, and I've put a few different ideas into play, and I've kind of gone, this it does make you think, and I think we have to learn all of the time. As you say, we expect the students to be able to do it, so we need to do it as educators as well.
Yeah. Do you think your sort of understanding of educational psychology, cognitive science, theories of learning, etc., helped shape the construction of the book? Because we talked about this before, about metacognition and the kind of way that you've written the book. There's a bit of a nod to that, isn't there?
There is 100%. I think when I started working in the research school, cognitive science was sort of something that wasn't necessarily there. There was an element of metacognition, but then we coupled up a couple of our training programs, and I delivered across sort of Kent and Surrey the Kent and metacognition training programs. And I think when you talk about metacognition, it's a really sort of slippery concept, and a lot of people are, that's the thinking about thinking. And obviously there's so many nuances within that, the idea of planning, monitoring, evaluating, your metacognitive regulation, in terms of like knowledge of task, self-strategy. And I think what's happened in me over time, because I've sort of been involved in reading about that and understanding it, that it's now become that sort of innate understanding that that's how I teach. So those metacognitive traits that I want to see in the children to develop their self-regulation, I've started to sort of add that layer to it. So I would 100% say that if I hadn't had that training around metacognition and memory and cognitive science, that the book would have looked slightly different. And I think there's a huge intertwined wave throughout, which I totally agree is about metacognition and supporting children to become more self-regulatory.
Yeah, brilliant. I think it's a real concrete example of that. So what Kate and I did when we kind of flicked through, we sat down and we thought, what questions do we want to ask James? What stood out from the book that maybe we're a little bit curious about, maybe we'd like to get your perspectives on, and we came up with 4 questions, and I think we'll go through maybe posing them to you now. So yep. Kate, if you want to start with the first one that we came up with.
Yes, we came up with 4. I mean, there were many questions that I found it fascinating.
We did have to narrow it down a little bit.
Let's narrow it down. So the first one then, if I read it so we get the word right. So in the book, you frequently mention the struggle zone and caution against the comfort zone. And those were 2 sort of key phrases that really sort of sat with me. Given the rising focus of mental health in schools, do you think there's value in sometimes allowing students to languish in comfort, because they were the words you used as well, to help build their confidence, especially in PE?
Yeah, I mean, there's a double edge to this. And I think when you look at teaching from my angle, the teachers that I feel are those most effective in the people that I've worked with are those where they've got really strong relationships. Now, that doesn't mean they're friends with the children. I'm not saying that. It's a professional relationship. But where that child looks at that teacher and goes, right, they absolutely want the best for me. They're going to push me to be the best version of myself in this room, in this subject, in this classroom. I think that has to underpin this, because if you're going to ask a child to put themselves out there in a time where they might be conscious of what their friends are thinking, they might be worried about how they look or they feel, if we're asking them to push themselves to the limits of what they feel they can do in the lesson to try and get the next little thing or to be slightly better so that they're in that what we call that struggle zone, it has to come back to relationships. And if that child doesn't look at me as the teacher and go, yeah, they're going to push me, but they want the best for me, they're consistent with their expectations and their consequence, there's transparency of consequence. If I don't have that, then trying to ask kids to do things like that is going to blow up in your face. So I think it's totally underpinned by strong professional relationships. But I do understand that at times that idea of the comfort zone will all be contextual and specific, because if I'm asking a child to do a front somersault in trampolining and I'm like, no, you need to do it, you can do it, and I'm trying to force them to do it, there's obviously huge health risks and concerns if they get it wrong. So I think that comfort zone is, if that's about building confidence to be able to then move them forward with whatever the principle is or the concept is, then yeah, there are times where you'll need to pause and go, actually, no, for this next lesson, this is all about me showing you're doing really, really well before we start to up the game. But the whole idea for me would have to be that the aim of that staying in that comfort zone, or languishing, as I've used in that comfort zone, is to support the child eventually to move into the struggle zone so that they can continually improve. And I think it's totally underpinned by relationships is what I'd say.
And I kind of read it as well, is, are you getting at the curriculum design as well, the way that curriculums might have been put together over time? Because I know I have in the past, and I know lots of schools still do, perhaps we have like a leisure aspect within our Key Stage 4 where there is potentially less teaching going on and more languishing in the comfort zone, because we see the students we want to, these are the things you'll be doing outside when you leave us, when you're going into the big wide world. And perhaps there's more, if you've got a fitness suite, you might be doing different fitness activities in there that they will do after school, or there might be more games or more leisure activities. And that feels like that's what you were getting at, this language in there. So do we need to continually always have something there where we are getting our students into the struggle zone, or is there a space for that, do you think?
I mean, I think it comes back to your curriculum design, like you alluded to, that depending on what you're saying as your purpose of your curriculum. Now, in the very first paragraph in the book, I think I talk about our job is difficult because we want children to achieve academic excellence in our subject and go on to do wonderful things. But we also want every child to leave us with a lifelong love and participation in sport and physical activity, or sport or physical activity. And I think your curriculum design needs to work out what it's addressing when you're addressing it, because you obviously talk about Key Stage 4, non-examined, still doing the 2 hours of PE. What's the purpose of that? And I think coming back to that will then be able to shape what you're doing. Because I think if you're saying, no, we're going to continually do X, Y, Z, then that might not be fit for purpose. But what I would say is that curriculum supports the challenge. And I think that challenge needs to be designed within the curriculum, as opposed to going, oh, this is a one-off venture where I'm going to do a challenging lesson today. That's rubbish. It needs to be, the curriculum is challenging the students to, and it might be to be physically active for 40 minutes without stopping to increase their heart rate. It might be to develop their 3 types of serve intake, whatever it might be. But I think the challenge element comes back to the curriculum design, and the curriculum should be designed to support children to continually progress. Now, there is obviously the caveat that progression might be about finding a love for a sport or being physically active. It might be developing skills within a specific sport. But yeah, that's the sort of, hopefully that answers what you mean.
Yeah,
Ross, so.
Yeah, nice. I think that the nod to having the highest expectations for the learners in front of you, but that's underpinned by the relationships, is a really important thing, because I guess the organic nature of mental health is really something we need to consider, because a child could come in one week and really engaged, ready for the lesson, and then something's happened and next week they're not. So it's an understanding of, well, maybe my expectations are really high for you normally, but I understand what's happened recently, and then we can kind of adapt, but still challenge you and support you.
Yeah.
And putting the learner first. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's about developing the children as learners. That's got to be an added element to it. But yeah, I totally agree with what you both just said. Really good points.
Next one then, Kate.
So next one was, you discussed the importance of explanations, modelling and vocabulary. How can we ensure our language in PE, particularly around perfect models, doesn't discourage students who may struggle to meet these standards? And then from my point of view, because I am in a girls setting as well, especially around girls who feel an awful lot of pressure to be perfect.
Yeah, and that is a really, really good point. And I think when I wrote it, what I was referring to was obviously the perfect model being the execution of the skill development within a sporting context. But now I'm sort of reflecting on that. I think the perfect model is about, again, what's the purpose of the thing that you're doing? So if the thing that you're doing is a pass in football, then the perfect model will be executing that pass consistently. If it's about being physically active for 40 minutes, it's about being physically active consistently for 40 minutes. So I think I wouldn't change the wording, but I think the idea behind the students need to see that the aim of what they're doing, and that will always be the skill, the development, whatever it is, being executed being executed correctly and successfully. And I think when I go into lessons and you're teaching children, I'm thinking of a sport like handball, for example. We teach a lot of handball in our school, and the kids don't watch handball, so they don't understand what handball looks like. So for me to say, right, we're going to develop the jump shot, they need to see what the jump shot looks like. What's the point of the jump shot? You're trying to attack the space, move forward with the ball, take off, high up, whatever it is. But they'll need to see that, because they might not have the mental model of what they're trying to do. And that's always coupled up with, why are we doing this? Why is this the most effective way of doing it? And I think the explanation and the vocabulary we use, I don't think it shouldn't be the perfect model. I think the kids should try and look and replicate that, but everyone's on their own journey. So it's about how we as the teacher show them that that's where we're trying to get to. But right now for you, it's about running forward with that ball to get to the D. That's the first bit. Let's get that secure. And again, that comes back to innate challenge, being appropriate challenge, but also the relationship where that child goes, they're not singling me out and I'm not behind, but it's about what I can do. What's my next step to work towards the end goal? The end goal is there to do the jump shot correctly, but at the moment I need to get these bits right first.
I suppose, again, it goes back to the point we've previously made. It's about these relationships, isn't it? The relationships. And if you have got a psychologically safe environment, then children will feel that they can fail, and we can talk about failures and we can build ourselves back up again. And perfect will look perhaps different. I think I was trying to get a little bit more about the vocabulary that we use as staff. There's a great video that's out at the moment. The Youth Sports Trust have done it with Lego. I don't know if you've seen the video, and there's children and parents, and they've been given a set of Lego to go and create I think it's a playground they have to create, and they're told to create their perfect playground. And all of a sudden, these children they don't know how to build, they don't know what to do. They're looking to their parents for reassurance and asking them questions what to do. And then flip to the next one where they're given the same challenge, but can you build the most creative and the most imaginative one? And they absolutely flourish, and they're no longer looking at that adult in the room for that support.
Yeah.
So it was there's a whole chapter that was brilliant that I really enjoyed reading, which was about vocabulary and how we can stretch and challenge using the vocabulary. And one of the points that you made was with GCSE students, and I reflected on, I'd just done a GCSE lesson where I was delivering the muscles, and we'd done a sticky label task, the task that everybody does, where you get the sticky labels and you put them all over to try and find all of the muscles on the body, standard teaching of the muscles. And some of the students in my year 10 group didn't know the names of some of the muscles. And so I had to go back and reflect then and kind of go, well, what am I doing in year 7? What am I actually saying? Am I using these key terms? Am I using this key vocabulary? And at the same time, one of our prep schools had put on a video of their year 2s doing a song about the pectorals and the biceps and and so thought, oh my goodness, these year 2s can name and show where all these muscles are, and yet my year 10s are struggling. There is something wrong in the vocabulary that we are using, and are we stretching and challenging enough without putting undue pressure on the students? And I think it's a really fascinating topic.
Yeah, and I think it also comes back to your curriculum design as well. If we know that these terms need to be embedded at Key Stage 4, is our Key Stage 3 curriculum, which is designed to support transition to Key Stage 4, is that having the desired effect to support the children to step up to the challenges of GCSE? And we do in Durrington, we've identified that actually we're in the same position. We've got kids in year 6, and they're able to name the muscles, the bones, they understand the joint actions, they understand the movement types, not necessarily joint actions, the phrase they use. But we then teach purely about practical, and we almost don't expect enough of them, when actually, if our expectations were high and our curriculum design was developed with challenge to support that, that would cover both of those concerns that we've got. And then when they get to Key Stage 4, they'd be more prepared. But they need to be explicitly taught and part of the curriculum. Like you say, if it's made you reflect and think that, then that's what it's designed for. Is to do that. So no, I really appreciate that.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because I'm thinking there, like, is Key Stage 3 PE the conveyor belt towards GCSE PE? So should we have the knowledge specific to that? And is there a place for maybe other specific knowledge in PE at Key Stage 3 that isn't GCSE PE content? And where do we place the value there? And also the word, when you use the word perfect, and I kind of link that to the competence, the motor skills and competence. And, the national curriculum says we need to develop competence. Physical literacy says we want young people to be competent. But I always think in terms of, what does competence mean? Is being competent enough? If we, like when we want to develop competence, are we looking to develop elite performers? And is that when we're happy with their competence? Or if I taken a learner to a level where they can be competent enough to use a badminton racket, that they can go and play badminton with their family after school, is that competence enough for them to have a positive relationship with movement and physical activity? And then if we're linking the words maybe perfect with developing competence, we might then push maybe an elitist perspective. This is me just thinking out loud here.
That's the challenge of a PE teacher, is that you've got to spin both of those plates, and you've got to work out, because of the relationships you have with the child, what's the end goal for them? Because if you're saying we're going to push them to become elite badminton players, but they've got absolutely no ambition to do that. What they want to do is they want to understand the rules of the game, and they want to be able to play it, singles and doubles, and understand how to outwit their opponent so they can go and play with their friends and their family on the weekend. Then we need to support them to do that. And we've got to try and spin both those plates, but impart challenge at the right time, give feedback at the right time. But fundamentally, we've got to try and do both of those things with one person with 30 kids in the room.
Yeah, and that's the challenge, isn't it?
Teacher, eh?
Yeah,
and
right.
You throw in the SEND amongst that as well, students that perhaps might not actually be able to participate with the physical side of things, but I've got some amazing coaches and some amazing umpires where their confidence to be able to know the rules and apply the rules, and they might not be able to perform necessarily, but there's that level of it as well, isn't there? So
and
As you say, we're spinning all of these plates all of the time. It's a challenge.
And that's where the GCSE providers, I mean, we won't get into the exam boards, etc. now, but they've totally changed the way that GCSE should be. You have to be a performer, and it's just not on. If you look at sport, how many people that are involved in the world of sport are performers?
And especially at 3 or 4 different sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you by the age of 14, 15, if you have channeled all your energy to go and become a footballer, and you are at Liverpool FC and you are training there 5 days a week, then you're not going to be the badminton player and the gymnast, are you?
No, that's it, and that's the problem. But also the fact that it's only about performing. You could be the best official, the best coach. You could set up a wonderful whole school tournament of something, whatever it might be, but that's just not recognised in terms of accreditation of exams, and that creates a problem for us as PE teachers, because we are governed by the exam board. So we have to try and work, how are we going to get the other side of that we're maybe missing at Key Stage 4 particularly? How are we going to make that happen? And it's really nice to hear you saying that we've got kids in there that are officiating, are coaching, and are thriving in the subject, because that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and I think there's a nice sort of link there to sort of pupil voice as well, in terms of if we use pupil voice more often, we can kind of understand what direction they want to go in, what an appropriate level of competence for them is, so we can start to build that into our planning and delivery. What do they actually want to achieve from physical education? What's meaningful and purposeful to them? Yeah. So then we can meet their needs instead of pushing maybe an agenda that we have onto them. And I think there's a lot of positive work being done on that at the minute, but maybe a little bit more that we can do. Yeah,
it's just getting into schools more, isn't it? It's getting more teachers realising that.
So the final 2 questions will come over to me. So, and this is something that I kind of see as someone who works in teacher education. And given the diverse backgrounds of new PE teachers and different routes into the profession now, and maybe different perspectives of PE, many of whom may have not had exposure to a wide range of sports themselves, do you feel current teacher training is equipping them effectively to model the skills needed across the whole PE curriculum?
I mean, it's a tough question, and obviously it's one that I'm not sure it necessarily has the desired impact in terms of from when I was training. And there was a lot of stuff that I did in my degree and a lot of stuff that I did in my Schools Direct that was useful. But the way I learned the most was being in classrooms, being in lessons, and almost joining in, seeing what it was like through the lens of those children, and working out for me, if I'm going to be the person at the front, how am I going to make sure I'm well versed in what I need to do? And it's difficult because I've not been involved in much of the ITT stuff more recently. But I would say that a lot of the teachers that are coming through in terms of PE teachers haven't necessarily got the physical abilities required to be able to succeed in a wide range of physical activities and sports, in terms of the subject knowledge to be able to know, right, okay, for that child, I need to move them on to do this and support them with that because this is what they're showing me, because they've not got the breadth across physical activity and sport. Now, I'm not saying that falls at the floor of the ITT providers, but I do feel like it's something that I'm noticing with teachers that are coming up. The quality of their practical understanding in sport is really lacking. And it might be a hangover from COVID, but it is something that I'm really noticing. And we're having to upskill a lot more teachers in a lot more professional development around purely subject knowledge in our subject than I've ever noticed.
Yeah. They are probably coming through a lot more knowledgeable about different teaching strategies and different teaching methods and the way to react and behave in a classroom, the way to manage behaviour. They're quite well versed on adaptation and SEND and those things. But as you say, that seems to be when we became a knowledge-rich curriculum. Yeah. The knowledge seems to have gone, right, I know all of this stuff. Can I actually do it?
Yeah, and that's the hardest bit, is because if you look at children, when you stand up in front of them, they've got to look at you and be like, first of all, that person wants the best of me. They absolutely know who I am. They're going to challenge me professionally so I do really well in this subject. This is what I like. But they've also got to be able to show me what I need to do to continually improve. And kids work it out quickly. If they realise that you're not able to do that, or you're not able to get them to progress, they work it out quite quickly, and it can become quite a difficult job. For me, that's well, we'll come on to it, but that's number one for me in terms of teacher sort of takeaway information is they have to be able to know and do a lot of stuff, and it's hard, but they have to.
Yeah, and I think it's a really tricky conversation to have, and quite a maybe a sensitive area where I almost feel like I'm tiptoeing a little bit in terms of are we then suggesting you have to be a brilliant performer in all areas to be a brilliant PE teacher? And it's tricky because we want PE teachers to have the subject knowledge to be able to teach the knowledge effectively. Whether or not every PE teacher that comes through, particularly training at my university and other training programs, has the ability to perform and demonstrate in every activity, I would say they can 100%. There are areas of real strengths and there are areas of real development, and I'll put my hands up. There's some invasion games that I'll be able to demonstrate really, really well, but maybe the aesthetic activities I might not be able to model as effectively as other people. But does that make me a poor dance or aesthetic teacher because I can't model it effectively if I know the knowledge and the strategies to be able to teach it effectively?
I'd say it depends where you go with it. I would say that there's obviously, I'm in the same boat as most PE teachers. I'm okay at some things, and there are other things that I'm continually trying to improve and work on. But I think it's also okay to show the children that you're attempting to try and do those things and not always get it right. I mean, I was in a lesson today, and we've got a young teacher who was teaching the layup, and he was absolutely flying into layup, missed it 5 or 6 times. Right, no, I'm going to keep going to layup. And that's showing that idea of it's okay. We're going to go through, for me, the next step is to do this. So I'm going to keep practicing that. But this is what we're trying to do today. Right, I know I've got little Johnny who's really good at basketball. Just show us a quick layup. Right, okay, let me watch. Right, okay, I'm going to have another go. And that's okay. But I would say that as the teacher, you have to be able to know, absolutely, that knowing can be supported with a model. And I think the idea being that we want to get to a position where we know our curriculum well, but we can also get to the point where we're able to show what that curriculum needs to look like. And if we can't, then we need to be able to continue practice to try to, because we have to continually try that. And my frustration, I think, here, what I'm trying to get to in a roundabout way, is when you get a teacher who does struggle with that element, whatever it might be, to model, and then they don't model. And they don't do it. They just use explanation, and the kids are left not knowing and wondering, because then that's having a detrimental effect on them. And I think there are ways around it, like the use of video. We're on a technology developing. You've got video models. You've got students in the room who are usually quite able to use, and that's all perfect to use. But I think the kids need to see it. Now, if you can't do it, the aim obviously is to get to a point where you can. But we're all human beings. We've all got strengths and weaknesses. The kids still need to see it. So we need to think about how we're being creative about ensuring, A, I know it, but B, they get to see it. Yeah. It's like asking a child to understand and interpret a map without showing them a map. They need to see the map to be able to interpret it. They need to see the skill or the development, the point, whatever it might be, to be able to interpret it.
Yeah, and it makes, again, coming back to the adage that, or the golden thread that's gone through the whole of this conversation, is how difficult the subject knowledge is within physical education, because you wouldn't expect a maths teacher to start an equation on the board and go, oh, I don't know how to model this effectively, or I'm not confident in doing this. But a PE teacher might be in a position where they do feel slightly like that. So it's a really interesting thing.
And I think need to have a think about what's the right word for it, the longevity of a PE teacher, because I'm years old now, and I can build my relationships in my gymnastics class, because I can go, look, I'm old enough to be your mother, but I can still almost do a handstand. And you have a round of applause at the end of it, because they're like, oh, you tried so hard, miss, well done. Well, I expect the same from you now as well. You've seen me try, you've seen me put myself out there, you've seen me wobble. Now you give it a go. And again, another golden thread of building relationships, showing how you can still try. And I might have been able to do this in the past, and I'm a little bit wobbly now, but I'm going to give it a go.
And it's okay, because there's a culture in the room where you've given it a go and you put yourself out there. So if you're willing to do that, that's all we expect of you, to try your best and give it a go. Because in our room, we all work really hard together. And it's an us, it's a relationship, we're working together.
I love that.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I think we all agree on that in terms of culture and climate, positive environment, growth mindset. And they're really powerful things for young learners. So final question before we go into the quick fire questions, James. The book emphasises developing deep thinkers in sport. What are your thoughts then on alternative PE curriculum designs where maybe there's more of a conceptual focus, concept-based, or life skills curriculums where there's less of a focus on skill mastery, but more of a focus on like meaningful, personally significant, maybe broader concepts?
Yeah. I mean, I would say for me, I'm a big believer in the idea of skill mastery in terms of when you get kids come up from year 7, is to develop skills across a range of sports, to find a sport that they thoroughly enjoy, might be more than one sport or activity that they thoroughly enjoy that they can then do for the rest of their life and that they're going to continually be active. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that the idea of concepts or health and fitness based life skill curriculum XYZ, there isn't a place for that. But I think it's got to be dependent on the children that we serve. And I think our curriculum design should be a fluid one where it's about who are the people in front of me that are in my school and how am I going to support them so that when they leave me, they can do this, 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 and this. And I think it comes back to A, student voice, checking what the students want out of your curriculum, but B, having the resilience as a teacher and a leader in the subject to say, actually, at this stage, this is way more important than what we're doing. We need to think about that. And I think it's not having a rigid curriculum that you decide, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, but actually saying we serve children, that's our job. What are we going to do to support them to have that lifelong love of participation, achieve academic excellence, go on to elite level sport if that's what they want to do? How can we make sure our curriculum is fit for the purpose that we, as leaders in the subject, have decided that we're going to do?
Yeah, I think it's a nod to the fact that context is key, isn't it? And doing lots of work with your pupils. Kate is a real advocate for pupil voice and how it can shape curriculum design, as we've mentioned in the previous episode. But I think we need to have that real clear declarative knowledge throughout the whole of the curriculum. That's what Ofsted will come in and have a look at, wouldn't they? And we have to kind of focus on that. But can we tie the concepts in with what the pupils want and also what we're trying to achieve? Is one of the biggest challenges again, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is a challenge, but it's one worth persevering with, I think, because like you say, you want your curriculum to be fit for purpose. And if it isn't, then it's not doing anything other than getting in the way, or potentially having a detrimental effect on those children that come through that. So it's definitely a battle worth discussing with teams, 100%.
Brilliant. So what I'll do now is, before we fly into the quick fire questions, this is the book. It might be a mirror at the minute because I'm showing it from my webcam. But if you did want to read Making Every PE Lesson Count by James, you can head over to Crown House Publishers, and there's a code for anyone listening to this. It's Insights30. And you can get a significant discount on buying a copy of a book for you to read. So if you want to read it, Insights30, head over and get that. So let's fire into the quick fire kind of closing questions, James. Yep. 3 non-negotiables then. I think I could maybe guess some of these from what we've talked about so far. But what would your 3 non-negotiables be for positive experiences for all in PE?
Relationships is number one. That is my main mantra, which we'll come on to, is that you have to be the person that those children look at and go, they are going to challenge me. They are going to make sure I work really, really hard, but they absolutely want the best of me. And I'm going to go in that room, and if I get it wrong, it's okay. It's not a problem at all, because I'm going to keep moving forward and I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to turn up every day with my kit and I'm going to love the subject. And I think that's number one. And that, like I said, that is my main mantra. I think subject knowledge has to be up there. As a PE teacher, you have to understand everything, and it's hard. It's an unenviable task. And as Kate's already said, the list we have to be able to do, just teaching year 7, 8 and 9, for example, is as long as your arm. And we have to know it. We have to know how to get children to improve. We have to know how to get children to excel beyond that, and then how to consistently have challenge. But we have to have the subject knowledge to be able to support the children to achieve. Now, I'm using the word achieve. That could be to be more active. That could be to go on to elite level sport. That could be academic excellence. But we have to have the breadth and knowledge across a wide range of sports to make sure that we are consistent, because we're the variability in front of the kids. And it shouldn't be that if you're with this teacher, you do much better than you're with that teacher. So we as professionals have to make sure that's up there. And then I like the idea of getting better never stops, but I'm going to go with something that Mark Rowland said, and this idea of meaningful success. And I really like that phrase, because meaningful success isn't about being the best in the class at whatever you're doing. It's about experiencing success through our subject. What does that child, where is that child? What is the next step to help them improve with whatever it might be? How do I ensure they experience success in my subject, so that when they leave, they come back and they say, I want to do that subject again. And I'm going to use the phrase of the analogy of golf here. When I play golf, I'm terrible at golf, but there'll be one shot in my round that I hit that makes me want to go and play again.
Yeah, I feel
our subject, what's the one shot we hit that makes that kid want to come and do our subject again? And that's how I like to finish every lesson, is with what's the one thing that individual child is going to take away that's going to make them come back. And I need to make sure that happens in every lesson. So that's
nice.
My 3 things. Now, probably a little bit left field there. I've not gone with the mainstream stuff, but it's stuff that made me think when you asked the question.
Yeah, so there's different interpretations of the question. Some people go with the nuts and bolts of a PE lesson, and some people will go more philosophical. And I think what you've done is you haven't chucked 3 at us that were surprising. They're 3 that you're obviously clearly very passionate about and eloquently put. So thanks. If you had a mantra then, or if you have a mantra for life, what would that be? Or education, what would that be?
Every child matters, first of all, coming through the doors. Every child that comes into our classroom in our subject, we need to make sure that they leave with some form of love for sport. That I'm all for academic excellence, and the book is a lot about how you support children to do that. But fundamentally, our main job is lifelong love and participation in sport, and we have to make sure we do that. I've got a quote from Tom Bennett who talks about relationships. Relationships are built on trust, which is built on predictability, consistency of consequence, transparency of expectations and taught routines, and the growing certainty that the teacher has a sincere regard for the student. This is built and not bought. And I think we are consistently the variability, but so powerful in moving students' lives forward through physical activity and sport. And I think we need to remember that. We are the variability. If we're consistent, if we're there and we have real transparency of who we are, and we have relationships built on that trust, and we care about the kids, then they should all come to the subject and absolutely love it and find something that when they leave, they come back and they say, you're the person that I'm doing this because you care and you're going to make me work hard.
Yeah. And I quite like that, because there's a lot of crossover with what you said in your previous answer. So you were talking about what's that one thing that they're going to get in the lesson that makes them come back and want it again. Let's just say that thing is you.
Yeah.
Let's just say that you said something or done something or interacted with that learner in the group that is the reason that they want to come back and learn again and that they're inspired to be there. It could be, couldn't it? It could be.
We are the variability, aren't we? We're the person at the front that dictates everything that happens in our room, in our classroom, in our subject teaching space. So I look at why I'm doing it now. The more I think about it, my experience of PE, my PE teacher, they did this. I didn't see it at the time, but they never gave up. They always wanted me to do more and be better and pushed me. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why now I'm reflecting back on my childhood. Actually, that's a huge part of it.
Brilliant. So the next one is a controversial question. If there's anything that you could remove from physical education or PE curriculum or PE provision, what would that be?
I mean, I've thought about this a lot, and I really don't know. But the one element of my curriculum I don't like teaching very much is football. I played football for a long time. Everyone that comes either loves football or hates football. It's a really divisive sport, if you like, in terms of that. But also, I've seen children in my school that I've refereed for a game of rugby on a Thursday, and I've refereed the same children in a game of football on a Friday, and they're totally different. So there's a societal problem with football. So if I'm honest, I love football, I love watching it, I love playing it. But if you ask me if I could remove one sport, no, not one thing, one sport from the PE curriculum, and school wouldn't be allowed to do it, I'd probably say football at the moment.
Yeah, I can reflect on that. I can see that. My experiences of being a football player and a football coach as well, and the one subject that I always struggled teaching the most, I think, was football, because of young learners' attitudes towards it, some of the stereotypes attached to it, and I can see where you're coming from there. Kate, I never got to ask you this question. We've got a bit of time.
Oh, okay. What would I remove? Okay. Oh, on the spot. I'm going to go really, really controversial then.
Good. I know you would.
I would remove assessment.
Oh, go on.
Summative.
Yeah. I hate having to report home in whatever way that is to say that your child is platinum, your child is a 5, your child is a 2B, your child is 70%. Because what is that meaning? And what is it doing to the way that child feels about PE? If we take PE as being physical education, yes, we have to teach, we have to assess, we have to know what level we are at, we have to improve. And this talk that we've had today on, mastery of skills, I'm absolutely all for that. The physical competency, yes, we are here to teach children how to get better so they can come in year 7 and leave in year 11, have a better knowledge and understanding of how to this broad breadth curriculum. But I also know that when we report home, you automatically, you look at whatever it is, that number, that figure, that word, that phrase, how has that made you feel? Because if you're not, I don't mean the best, and going back to this vocabulary before about being perfect, if you are not, if it doesn't relate to you, when that child or that parent looks at their assessment in PE, they're either going to be happy about it or they're going to be sad about it. And if they are going to be sad about it, how is that going to affect them next lesson? Am I no good? Am I not valued in that lesson? Am I not seen? Is there not a place for me? Because if I've got child A who is playing netball outside of school and she's playing for an elite team, she's playing for her county, she's doing absolutely fantastically, and I've got child B in my class who has an array of special educational needs, and I've got these set phrases that I need to use to assess them, it doesn't sit well with me, and I can't figure out at the moment where to go. And my assessment is going round and round and round and round in circles, because we have to report home using a percentage, and that's what we do. So we have taken a bit of me in PE and a bit of meaningful PE and a bit of all of these different things, and we come up with a percentage. But I send a letter home to every parent before they get it to say the way that we have come up with this percentage is based on the physical competency, their cognitive development, their social behaviour within lessons, their leadership skills, and their behavioural attitudes, all of these things. And that's how we've come to it. But please don't read too much into it, because what is 72% PE?
And also, how do you get to that? Like in maths, you get 72% of the marks. Yeah. In PE, if you've got 2 classes that have done netball and you've got 3 classes that have done handball, and then you've got another 2 classes that have done this, how is there consistency of assessment when it's purely a subjective element?
Absolutely. And if I've got students in my class, I do have students in my class that outside of school, they are phenomenal at martial arts, for example.
But we don't do it in school.
Oh, unfortunately, it's something we don't teach. So you might be a GB fighter, and I'm telling you that you're only bronze level at netball and football. Well, you've got no interest in that. Who am I to tell you that? No, I would get rid of assessment. I'd talk about effort levels, because I think effort is something.
And attitude.
Effort and attitude, because I think that is key. And if you've got the right attitude and the right beliefs, which is something we can teach and we can change and we can work on, and we can use this concept curriculum as well as our mastery of skills curriculum to change all of those things, I think that's really important to know. But the idea of assessing as a whole, I'd get rid of it.
I want to change mine. I want to get rid of football and assessment.
Yeah. Well, I'm girls' PE as well, so we want to put football in.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's, I think, I'll come back to my experiences. If you teach a girls' group of PE who have never played football before and they've just picking up the ball for the first time, and you get through that sort of preconceived idea that it's rubbish and it's not very good, like the progress they make and the enjoyment they have is amazing. So when I'm saying get rid of football, I'm getting rid of top end boys football.
Yeah.
It frustrates the hell out of me.
Absolutely. That's it. I taught a lesson today because we within our year sevens we have like we call it fundamentals basically, which means nothing to them. They don't understand it, but we've done netball for quite a while, and we've taught the fundamentals of catching and passing and moving and all of that to netball, and brought them into the sports hall today. And he said, right guys, today we're going to do rugby, and you could see them go, oh my goodness. I said, start. I said, I want you just to hold this for a moment and just how do you feel? Let's be really, really honest. And some of them were saying, oh, I'm dead excited about this. I'm really, really happy and really curious. Some were like, Miss, I don't want to be here. Miss, can I go to the toilet straight away? People wanting to exit the room, get gone. I said, right, okay, we're going to start. We got them into little teams, gave them a netball, which confused some of them. And we played a netball game, because that's what they were comfortable with. And we talked about the fundamental skills, and we passed the ball and we moved and we were dodging and we were doing all these different things. I said, right, the only thing we are going to change now is the ball. You've just proved to me you can all move, you can all catch, you can all pass, you can all look for space, you can all do all of these different skills and our social skills. We've got good teamwork, we've got good communication, we've got all of these things going on. This is brilliant. The only thing that we are going to change now is the ball. Same game, same rules. And they're like, oh, okay. So, right, what's the one thing you can't do in netball that you can do in rugby? Oh, we can move with the ball. Brilliant. We did not look at passing backwards. We didn't do that today. But we looked at being able to now move with the ball. Because as soon as you get girls, we've had, 12 years of playing netball. I've got a ball. I'm standing still. I'm not moving anywhere. So getting them to move with the ball, that was like liberating for them. So they moved with the ball. And then said, right, okay, so how do we now feel if next lesson I say we're going to do rugby? How do we now feel about it? Oh, okay, yeah, I get it. I get these transferable skills. I get that I can do this. I'm still cautious about going outside, and are we going to be tackling and throwing each other to the floor? Are we going to be doing that? There's questions to have there, but just the psychological safety. As soon as I said rugby, preconceived ideas of this is what's going to happen within the lesson, and I'm not going to like it. So no, let's break these barriers down. Let's make this safe space for us to all play in.
Oh. Can you hear Nathan?
I can't hear you, Nathan.
Neither can I. I agree though, Kate. That's really good. Really.
Yeah. And it's these ideas of making sure that we can teach this breadth of the curriculum, and we can teach all of these different ideas, but do it in a safe way, in a way that we can build these relationships and students feel safe around us. It doesn't matter then if they're doing a concept curriculum where they're going to learn, how to be more resilient, or how to work with others, work on communication, or you are looking at a mastery of a skill, then there's got to be something there for everybody.
Yeah, that's it. And that's the main message, isn't it?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you now, Nathan.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I'll edit that back in. So what I was going to say, and I'll try and blend it back into what I was going to add to the end of the conversation, was so when we talked about assessment, and I've really loved listening to you both talk about assessment, and now that James has added it to the thing that he'd remove or consider removing, I was thinking about there's definitely still a place then for reporting, because definitely. I think assessment is a label, isn't it? And it's something that they attach, and they really worry about young people. But reporting on things like effort and attitude is one of the key ways that we're going to change the perspectives of physical education as a subject to families and the wider community. So I feel we really need to think about what we report, removing summative assessment, but continue to report it. And the stigmas and stereotypes and just images and behaviours attached to sports, particular sports, are really frustrating. And one of the biggest challenges we face as physical educators, I think, in terms of breaking them down and changing the thoughts of young people. So thank you for also raising that point. So we come to the sort of end of the chat today. It's been brilliant to talk about the book, James. Again, I'll post the discount code for people if they want to go and buy it. And I'm sure you'll welcome people reaching out to have further conversations with you about our subject. But if you could kind of summarize the sort of key message from today, how would you kind of encapsulate what we've talked about?
That's a good question. I would say that PE is central in development as human beings. I think it goes beyond what we do, We support children to be able to contribute to society in all aspects of it. And our subject is, for me, the most important subject in a school, because you learn so many vital skills that will stand you in great stead. I think the variability of that is the teacher. Curriculum obviously supports it 100%, but kids come to school every single day. Our job is to make sure that there's meaningful success, meaningful participation in our subjects, so that they leave us being able to, like I said, contribute to society or be elite level sports people. But the main thing is that they come to us and they want to come back and do it again. I think if I go back to the book is a mechanism to make you stop, think and reflect on your current practice, or start to understand the questions you need to ask yourself if you want to be an educator in PE. And the idea is that it is designed to challenge you, to make you think, to make you reflect, because we need to evolve. When things change and generations move through, we need to change what we do to ensure that we are serving the young people that come into our schools, so that we give them the best possible start to life, because they get one chance at school. And hopefully the book has made people, or does make people, do that.
Lovely. Nice, with a nice bow on top. Thank you for summarising so well, and thank you for your contribution to the PE community with your book. It's been a great afternoon. I mean, I've enjoyed finishing work and having a conversation, talking PE with you both. It's been insightful, and I don't want to murder a quote, but Mikhail Kvenestedt wrote, and he said that one of the main aims for physical education is more physical education. I think I might have murdered the quote, but if you can go and find the paper, it's one that is truly inspiring, and it echoes the sentiments of what you said in this episode, James. So thank you. Thank you, Kate, as well for coming on and co-hosting.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always great to hear your insights, and thank you for reading through the book and sharing your thoughts as well. It's been brilliant. Thanks both.
Yeah, no, thank you both. I really, really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.